Yes, Praveen, you're live.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the second mini symposia for the bird monitoring symposium. Yesterday, we had a session on telemetry, which is slightly complicated with a lot of technology and a lot of investment. This is a slightly different session on bird atlases, which connects to what Ghazala was talking about a while back on what are the challenges of monitoring and how this could be plugged by different means which are quite maybe endemic to India, I would say that way. So what is a bird atlas? Bird atlas is a set of maps and figures which actually documents birds spatially and temporally over a region. So it actually finds out where the birds are and also across seasons, how they vary. Sometimes they do also talk about trends of how things are changing, but that particular visual medium of communication is a bird atlas. And when that is done, equal effort across space and time, that becomes a systematic bird atlas. So what we have today are four different systematic bird atlases. Some of them are over, some of them are ongoing, and we have people from all groups represented. Two people from each of the bird atlases will present their work. And talk about bird atlas, right? It is a fairly recent phenomenon. Considering India has got bird documentation from 1830s, 1840s, nearly 200 years. The atlases have been a phenomenon. Systematic atlas have been a phenomenon in the last 8 years. That's quite recent. But then it has picked up. More and more people are interested. Now we have more and more cities and states who are interested in doing bird atlas. So this is a symposium bringing all of them together. We split the mini symposium into two. Morning we have talks followed by a demo, which will just keep running. You can actually listen to it when you're having lunch, or you can always revisit the videos, followed by a discussion in Zoom with breakout rooms in the afternoon. So that's a setup for the day. I would be present, and others, Preeti and others, will also be helping us. We have the Discord channel where you can post the questions after each of the session by the city or the state group. We will have about 5 minutes for Q&A. If you are not able to cover the questions, we will have the presenters joining the Discord channel. They will answer the questions in the Discord itself. So people who are not in Discord, you will be able to watch it on YouTube live. But if you really want to ask questions, you will have to come and join Discord. So that's roughly the setup for the day. Without further ado, I would like to invite the Mysuru group, Sri Tanuja and Sri Sheshagiri. They've been a part of the first bird atlas, systematic bird atlas for India, where about 60 people participated, and they completed in a course of 3 years. And there are some very interesting results to present, as well as they've done certain things which only Mysuru has done it. So they would probably be concentrating on more of those aspects. So I invite both of you to present the Mysuru bird atlas to us. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. A hearty welcome to the day 2 of Bird Monitoring Symposium 2022. We are very happy to start off with Mysore City Bird Atlas. I'm Tanuja, and I'll be joined by Mr. Sheshagiri, and we will be jointly presenting our work, which we did as a team from Mysore between 2014 and 2016. The first few slides will be on protocol, and the second half will be on the results. So to begin with, we divided Mysore into grids so that to ensure that equal efforts was put across Mysore city, which has got an extent of around 160 square kilometers. The city was divided into 33 cells of 2.2 kilometers by 2.2 kilometers, which was aligned with the Survey of India topo sheet. So these cells were further subdivided into 4 equal sub-size cells, There were a total of 132 subcells, each with a size of 1.1 kilometer by 1.1 kilometer. And the criteria for selecting the size of the subcell was that the area could be reasonably surveyed in a single short visit. A single survey involved a team of 1 to 4 birders visiting a subcell for 30 minutes. And the survey was carried out between 6:30 a.m. and 10 a.m. Species observed and number of individuals against each species in the subcell was noted down. Volunteers did not follow straight line transect or any predefined routes. Rather, they were asked to cover all available habitat in the subcell. Routes were not standardized across multiple surveys, nor was the actual coverage of a subcell assessed. Volunteers were asked to try and avoid double counting. There was no explicit instruction to leave out birds flying over the subcells. Each subcell was surveyed in this way once in February, that was in winter, and once in June, which could be taken as summer or monsoon, in 2014, 2015, and 2016. Thus, data was obtained for 6 seasons. So participants uploaded their checklist with counts of each species for each subcell to eBird. Data quality checks were conducted on the raw data downloaded from eBird. Survey lists were scrutinized to correct nomenclature errors. Unusual and unlikely reports of species were also examined manually and withheld if no supporting documents was provided. Progress was monitored using Facebook as a notice board, and you can see a little sample on the screen. So each year, data summarized were generated and uploaded to Mysuru Atlas web page. The majority of the subcell, that is 93% of 763 subcell, repetition across 3 years, were surveyed for exactly 30 minutes, and only 3% of the subcells were surveyed for duration outside the range of 30 to 40 minutes. And although participants were asked to count birds of individual species, rather than simply mark their presence, count information was absent from a small portion of records, that is about 1.1% of 18,641 records, including presence only record as single bird. In total of 1,16,689 individual birds were counted. And participants signed up to cover particular subcells and posted their URL on their eBird. So the volunteers would voluntarily take up the subcells, and they would upload it on the eBird, and you can see a sample of it on the screen. Volunteers were encouraged to choose the subcells. The surveys of the left out subcells comprising urban areas, which would not evoke much enthusiasm, were shared among the senior birders. A master spreadsheet lists all subcells numbers, the name of those who had signed up to cover each subcell, and the surveys carried out were all listed. So you can see the work in progress sample. So the Atlas coverage was completed in all 3 years, all seasons, except in February 2015, when a few subcells were inadvertently left unsurveyed. So the second portion will be taken over by Mr. Sheshagiri.
Thank you, Tanuja. Good morning, everybody. I'll take over from where Tanuja has stopped. So you can see map of Mysuru on the top left corner of the PPT. That area was around 160 square kilometers, was divided into 33 cells, main cells, as you can see on the right top or the left bottom. Left bottom shows only the terrain. And a typical out of 6 seasons, one season's species density in Mysore city against each cell can be seen on the bottom right of the PPT. The lowest being 30 to 49 species and the highest being 120 to 129 species for that particular season. Tanuja, please. Again, this slide shows the cell, one single cell 30A, B, C, D, wherein 30A and 30C is Lingambudi Kere, that is marshy wooded area, and on the right side, that is 30B and 30D, you have newly coming up built-up area of the city. So 30 and 30A was also surveyed, 30B, 30D was also surveyed. The species count in 30A and 30C was very much when compared to 30B and 30D. Next, please. So this is one grid comprising 14A, 14B, 14C and 14D subcells. This is heart of Mysore city. You can see a lot of congested urban built-up area. So here, this evoked not much response from other birders. This was not a pleasurable experience to survey this portion of the city, but still the senior birders gracefully took it up and they conducted the survey. That's how equal effort across the city was ensured. Next, please. So this graph shows for a particular season the cumulative number of species recorded against the number of subcells covered. So you can see by the time we cover 60 to 80 subcells, maybe around 60 subcells, the number of species which we encountered, almost the species saturates beyond 60 cells. Only very few species get added up. That shows that the methodology of survey was almost perfect. On the bottom side, you can see against different years and 2 seasons how the species count. For example, if you take 2014 February, there are 154 species. But same year in June, 120 species. Though we know it, but the data generation documentation is important. So this shows that there is a difference of 34 species in the same year between February and June. Next, please. Next. This is the table on the right shows the abundancy of individual species that is available in Mysore city in February all years and June all years. If you can say, a common myna is the most commonly encountered species in Mysore, around 84%. That is in February. So in June it is 88%. So common myna dominates. So as black kite and the rest, it goes like that. So the most commonest among these are known commensals of humans. And the interesting, it is interesting to note that even in February, none of the top 20 commonest species are long distance migrants. So all prizes were taken by the local species only, even during winter. Tanuja, please. Next slide. This typically shows the map of Mysore city of different species on a particular season. You can see on 2 different seasons. You can see in the top Baya weaver during February, the species density, and during June, like the spotted dove, laughing dove, red whiskered bulbul, and so on. You can see Baya weaver bird, the density is not more, because Mysore being a city, so we can see Baya weaver birds only in country area. So you can see that. Whereas as opposed to that, spotted dove has maximum presence across the city. Next piece. Again, this is the species density across Mysuru city in various seasons. You can see February, June, and the total. The total is not just adding up February and June. I'm sorry. It is just adding up February and June. June. Please, next. And okay. Next. These are the typical areas where the bird survey was carried out. You can see on the top left, Devaraja Market, and newly coming up urban area in the backdrop of this thing, water and wasteland. The left bottom is famous Kukralli Lake with heronry, and the right bottom is cemetery. So the volunteers covered all the areas of my system. There are some shortcomings which can be always improved in the next efforts. So at-loss coverage was complete in all the years except in February 2015, where a few subcells were inadvertently left unsurveyed. The majority of subcells, almost 93%, were surveyed exactly for 30 minutes. Only 3% of subcells were surveyed beyond duration outside the range of 30 to 40 minutes. This was because of the enthusiasm of a few birders. This could be corrected. And although this was already spoken by Tanuja, although participants were asked to count number of individual species, some birders only marked presence of the bird, not counting the number of individuals against each species. This error was only 1.1% of the total records. This was counted by the data analysts as one species. So some aspects of the protocol they had to be specified explicitly, which was not done, especially not to count flyovers separately, not to count flyovers or to count flyovers separately, because this adds up to the same species being added to one or more subcells or even cells. You can please, Tanuja, next slide. You can go to the next slide.
I've gone to the next slide. Outcome.
Okay, the outcome. So the outcome of this bird survey is it is possible to generate scientifically valuable information by utilizing enthusiasm and careful organization of organization, even from city centers, okay, and bus stands and many areas where birders usually avoid. From the perspective of the bird ecology, the atlas gives an insight into the details of seasonality and distribution at a very fine scale. Though it is a common sense that during winter the number of species is more, but this will be documented meticulously by doing such kind of surveys. From the conservation point of view, in the present situation of rapid urbanization, we understand how cities change over time and how these changes influence bird species compositions and abundance by conducting this kind of surveys. And it creates a baseline to measure future change. And the information, since it is crowdsourced, the information is available, and it is possible to design urban living spaces that allow birds and other wildlife to coexist with humans. Next, please. We would like to thank all the members of the volunteers of Mysuru Bird Atlas who volunteered for preparing this Mysuru Bird Atlas. So many names are there. We take this occasion to thank all, one and all. Next. This is these many people were working to make this bird atlas possible. Next.
That's the end of the slides.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much for sparing your valuable time to listen to us. Thank you so much, Tanuja, to you.
Yeah. A hearty thanks to Dr. Suhail Kadir, who helped us with concept protocol and also the guidelines. And we should remember Dr. K.B. Sadanand, late Dr. K.B. Sadanand, who was a guide, a philosopher for Mysore nature enthusiast. Mr. Shiv Prakash, who is the backbone for any of our interesting nature studies that's conducted in Mysore, and also to Mr. Sheshgiri, who helped in analyzing the data sheets. Thank you all. Thank you for your time. And to know more about our work, do visit Mysore City Bird Atlas on mysorenature.org. It's free to use, and please feel free to contact any of us for any clarification that you need. We are very happy to share our experience, and wishing you all best in your efforts. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tanuja ma'am and Sheshagiri sir, for the interesting presentation on Mysore Atlas. It's amazing to see what you have done when nobody else have ventured into this territory back in 2014. We have a question. Before I just go there, I probably would like again congratulate the entire Mysore Atlas team, and do tell us what is in store for future. This is something which you have done probably 5-6 years back. Is Mysore planning anything more now on the Atlas front?
We do have some plan, but we would like to first discuss with the team and then come out with in public. What I would also like to stress about is while we were fighting, few of the Mysore citizens were fighting to save Kukrali Lake, we did rely heavily on the data that was generated by the Mysore Bird Atlas. And also currently, while we are trying to stop the ropeway that's coming up, that's planned for Chamundi Hills, we are once again relying heavily on the data that's on the bird species that we got from the Mysore Bird Atlas.
That's very, very heartening to hear. There is an interesting question on Discord from Nishant on you did surveys on heavily populated areas. Also, you mentioned it is not that interesting. Did birders and experience whether any curious onlookers who either supported or questioned whatever we are doing in those populated areas?
Oh yes, always. You always get questions and also looks that what's happening. But it's also important to talk with the public to know what we are doing, so that they're also aware and they don't take it otherwise, because especially there would be children and women out there, and we don't want to be seen with a binocular and being misunderstood. So it's always important to talk with the public, and it's also nice to involve them in this project, because it is citizen science.
Right. And that's a connected question from Monica. What have been your experience with volunteers in terms of attracting them for data collection? How many volunteers have been consistently helping in collecting the data for Mysore Bird Atlas? With that, a big kudos to the Mysore Atlas team from Monica also. So the question is, what has been your,
Yes.
how were you able to attract volunteers and help with the data collection?
Yeah. Thank you, Monica. It's a team effort, and the whole I receive it on behalf of the whole team. Mysore has always been lucky in the sense, my seniors who were part of the mid-winter waterfall census, which has been done for last 30 years. It's always been done as a voluntary thing. So they in turn trained a lot of volunteers, and it's continuing in Mysore. It's always a challenge to get volunteers, but Mysore is very lucky in that sense that we do get volunteers who come and been part of the Atlas, not only Atlas, but for last 30 years we've been monitoring lakes of Mysore, Chamarajnagara and Mandya during the winter fowl, for the winter fowl. And also it's important that the data is shared with the volunteers so that they know what's happening.
Cool. There are more questions on the Discord, so feel free to visit, and a lot of great work. Congrats coming your way in the Discord. Feel free to go there and answer them. So thank you once again for sharing your experience. So we will then move to the next talk. We have Coimbatore team, Coimbatore again, City Bird Atlas. Sri Bhavi and Sri Arulvelan are here to share their story. They have been a more recent atlas done in 2020, 2022 times, slightly overlapping with the COVID period. But they will have a lot more things to tell in terms of fresh memory, and they have used a lot of tools, which we'll also see in the demo. So over to Bhavi and Arulvelan to talk about Coimbatore Bird Atlas and how it was done.
Hi everyone, myself Bhavi, a volunteer from Coimbatore City Bird Atlas. Me and Dr. Arulvelan, one of the coordinator of Coimbatore City Bird Atlas, are here to talk about the highlights of our approach, what we did in this survey. Here we are going to briefly discuss about what we think we did differently from others are capacity building initiatives, validation of each checklist rigorously, minimizing error using tech through a dashboard management, friendly coordination of survey teams among birders, and evolution of survey methods during COVID. Then talking about the survey period, it is for 3 years from 2020 to 2022. Each year has 2 seasonal surveys. One is a dry season and the other is wet season. The dry season falls in the month of February and March, and the wet season falls in the month of June and July, when the onset of southwest monsoon occurs. So in 3 years, there are totally 6 seasonal surveys. So far, we have completed 4 seasonal surveys, and the 2021 wet season survey has been deferred due to the COVID-19. That deferred wet season survey is going to be held in the year 2023. So there are totally 2 pending wet season surveys. As Coimbatore City Bird Atlas is purely based on volunteership and citizen science program, we got assistance from the pioneers such as the Mysuru Bird Atlas and Kerala Bird Atlas, so that we came to know about how to grid the surveying area and the surveying methods. Further, my city is divided and gridded into 37 grids of 3.3 kilometer into 3.3 kilometer cell, and each cell is a sampling unit, and each cell is further subdivided into 9 subcells measuring 1.1 into 1.1 kilometer subcells. Then among that 9 subcells, 3 subcells have been randomly selected from each cell. Each subcell must be visited for 2 times. It was designed to survey each subcell for 60 minutes. So first, a team of birders will survey a subcell and put 2 lists. of a 15-minute complete traveling list. Then after a week or 10 days after, another team will revisit that same subset and put 2 lists, each of 15 minutes complete traveling list. This method is used to avoid the observer bias and the seasonal bias. So in effect, there are 111 subcells are surveyed during each season. A subcell is visited for 2 times, so totally 222 visits. Totally, a subcell consists of 4 lists. So 114 into 4 is a 444 complete checklist, and a complete checklist is of about 15 minutes. So 444 into 15 counts 6,660 minutes of surveying time. So we put lots of efforts and time for this survey during each and every season of survey. Then, as I said earlier, Coimbatore City Bird Atlas is purely of voluntary basis. We got assistance and guidance from our experts and scientists, such as Dr. Suhail Khader, who is the head of National Conservation Foundation, Dr. Ashwin Vishwanathan, a renowned birder who working in Bird Count India, Mr. Praveen J. From Kerala Bird Atlas, who is an organizer of Kerala Bird Atlas, and Dr. Raja Jayapal, who is a senior scientist in SACON, and Dr. P. Pramod, who is also an ornithologist and a scientist in SACON, and finally Dr. P. Jagannathan, who is also works in Nature Conservation Foundation. At this moment, we bound to thank all our advisors. And then we have lots of participants for this survey. But even though our Atlas partners, we're fortunate to have our Atlas partners in this process. In and around Coimbatore, there are many NGOs, and some are our Atlas partners, and we bound to thank them at this moment to become part of our CCBA. Mr. D. Bhuminathan, WWF India, then Mr. S. Bharatithasan Arulagam, Mr. Kalidasan Osai, Mr. Parthiban from Western Ghats Wildlife Conservation Trust, Mr. Saravanan Chandrasekharan from Canopy Nature Academy, Mr. Selvaraj from Coimbatore Nature Society, then Mr. Ganeshwar from Salem Ornithology Foundation, Mr. Ravindran Kamachi from Tripur Nature Society, and finally Mr. Mohammad Salim from Environment Conservation Group. We want to thank everyone for this who have contributed in this atlas. I'm completing my presentation till this, and after this, our one of the coordinator, Dr. Arul Vilan sir, will continue this presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bhavi, for a wonderful introduction and giving an overview of Coimbatore City Bird Atlas. It's wonderful. Let me continue. Good morning to everyone here. This experience, Coimbatore City Bird Atlas, has been very rewarding and exciting, and we are learning a lot. In fact, as you know, Coimbatore City Bird Atlas is a citizen science effort of volunteers. Hence, we are taking every care to ensure and enable that the volunteers get sufficient inputs so that we achieve the Atlas objectives. To this end, we offered a lot of enriching activities many activities are there. The top of it is a bird identification workshop, which we named it as Bird Talk Series. So this talk series was handled by seasoned resource persons, and we have a big pool of resource persons here in and around Coimbatore. So we enlisted the help. In fact, during the period from August 2020, January 2021, within a period of 6 months, we were able to conduct as many as 23 workshops. This was based on demand by the participants who wanted to have some resource persons talking to them about various birds. And we were able to do it. This was conducted on every Sunday for about an hour. And this went on well. And this was useful to the birders. This is one activity. And we had another activity. This activity was in fact offered by one of the participants. This is Salakshi. She's a government school employee. She was very enthusiastic. She offered to gather basic information along with videos about whatever birds were observed during the first season survey. And there were 154 species she was able to gather. And we circulated the information as well as the audios through a WhatsApp group. This used to take place for about 9 months, starting from April 2020. And every day she used to do it. And after some time, each and every participant used to look forward to getting these updates and basic information about some of the birds. This went on very well. And as you know, we had to integrate our participants, the CCBA birders, into the other activities which are taking place in Tamil Nadu as well as in India as well as over the world. So that is why we inducted them into some of the broad-based activities like GBBC, Big Bird events during May and October. And we have in Tamil Nadu a local event called a Pongal Bird Count. This used to be done during the month of January middle for 4 days. So this used to attract a lot of attention and interest. So our CCBA members used to take part in these activities for all the years, 2020, 21, 22. This was another activity. Then through eBird and the resource persons in eBird as well as the reviewers in eBird, we got to know about the unbirded grids in and around Coimbatore and nearby districts, and we encouraged our birders to take part and cover some of the unbirded grids. Then the initial years, say between 2015 to 2019, we used to have a birders meet, a direct meet of Tamil birders. It used to be a congregation of all birders in and around Tamil Nadu. That used to be a big attraction for all the birders. Unfortunately, this could not be carried out during the year 2020 due to the pandemics. So it was conducted instead in the form of a Tamil birders virtual meet. And here again, our CCBA members took an active part. And to cater to the needs of the newcomers as well as people who are interested in field visits, we used to conduct field visits to birding hotspots within Coimbatore and near Coimbatore, and especially to places near the subcells. And that way, we used to conduct twice a month field visits to some of the hotspots, and these visits used to be led by sponsored, some of the seasoned birders. Sorry. Then recently, especially during this year, 2020 and 21, the local state forest department, they have got into an activity called a synchronized bird survey. So there are 3 phases in that. First phase used to be conducted in coastal areas, the second one in inland water bodies, the third one in hill areas. So our birders were enthusiastic, and many of our birders took part in these surveys. And some birders, some members, they were so enthusiastic and interested that they led and coordinated some of the surveys in nearby districts like Nilgiris and Tirupur. They did it. And just before every commencement of every season, we used to conduct live demo sessions at subcell locations. So we used to have some sessions in the subcell itself, wherein the usage of eBird and the locus free apps were demonstrated to all the birders who were ready for that season. this was another activity. These are some of the capacity building initiatives where we are very proud of, and this is well received by all the birding community. Another aspect is the rigorous validation of each and every checklist. See, the checklist, once the checklist are made and they are submitted, we encourage the birders to share it with our exclusive eBird ID called Kovai Bird Atlas. And once we get it, we used to validate this checklist in a very rigorous way. The first thing to look for is the geolocation. So the geolocation is about whether the list is, particularly falls within the subcell is what we used to look in. And thereafter about the survey track. The survey track is about whether the track begins, travels and ends only within the particular subcell. This is what we used to see, the survey track. And the third aspect is the species and its counts. Species, we know that some of the common birds are there which are available, which have been earlier reported. So those species we are aware, and the birders also know about it. But once in a while, we get some checklists wherein some new species have been reported and some higher counts used to be there. So on such occasions, we used to get some feedback and some comments from the birders to ensure that such species are really there, and also about the count. Some errors may take place, so that is why we used to check upon it, and only thereafter we used to validate. And about the time itself, normally we are encouraged to do the survey only between 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Most of the checklist fall only between 6 and 9 a.m. There are a few occasions wherein the checklist would have been started just before 9 o'clock, and in that particular subcell. And in those cases, we may have to allow them to continue to have the survey and complete it before 9:30. So that way, time is another aspect. The duration has to be necessarily only 15 minutes. So that way, we used to repeatedly tell our participants to ensure that the duration is only 15 minutes. And whenever some checklists are of lesser duration or higher duration, we had no other alternative but to go in for redo. The other aspect is about the distance. Distance, from a feedback from some of the experts, somebody who guide us in these aspects, we were asked to ensure that the distance is not less than at least about 200-300 meters, and it should not exceed about a kilometer. Normally, if somebody is going to walk for about 15 minutes, they can comfortably cover more than a kilometer. But now that we are birding, we need to look in for the bird audio as well as the visual cues are there. And we need to leisurely and deliberately walk and look for birds. So that is why, as guided by them, we used to tell the birders to keep the distance only between 300 meters to around 800-900 meters only. So this is another aspect. So these are the 6 aspects we look for in a very rigorous way, so that the checklists are of good quality. Then only we validate it. The other very important aspect is about the dashboard management. We have an exclusive team headed by Mr. Rajarajan, who has a special interest in these areas, and he's the one who was involved. On his own, he has done this. And from him, we come to know that there are Google Sheets are there as back end, and there are Atlas dashboard is there in the front end. And as and when the Google Sheets are updated, as and when these are pasted, the Atlas dashboard used to reflect the position there. So the key, the important point here is that the correct links at the correct place is very essential. Otherwise, the error may come in, and this may affect the ultimate result. So this is one very important area, and that way we were able to save a lot of time, and our quality also improved. And especially about the using tech to minimize error in dashboard management. Our Mr. Rajarajan is going to give an exclusive session on Atlas Tech demo in different sessions, and he is likely to cover about it in a very detailed way. So let me pass. Another aspect is about the birder-friendly evolution of survey methods. So, like when we commenced the survey, where in 2020 February, March, wherein we had never heard about this COVID away, and we were able to do it comfortably. But those times, we used to form teams based on registrations available, we used to form teams of 2 to 5, and we used to allocate subcells at least about 2 days prior to the date of survey. And we were hot put, and it was tough for us to follow with them to deploy the teams and ask them to go to the particular subcell. This took a lot of effort, but in spite of all the effort, we were able to do it comfortably within 8 working days and within a month. So that way, this went on well. But thereafter, when the pandemic was on us, and we were under the spell of COVID. So during the June-July 2020 survey, the pandemic was on us, and we had to devise and find out different ways to ensure that the survey is conducted in a smooth manner. So what we did is that we used to allow the participants to form their own teams. Their own teams is about people who are living nearby, people who are already friends, people who belong to a family. So such people, they were allowed to form their own teams, and we used to only allocate subcells to them. So this is to ensure that they travel lesser distance, they take lesser time to reach their destinations. Destinations in the sense, the subcells. And during the third season, February-March 2021, and there again, the COVID-19 spell was there, and very many restrictions are there by the government authorities. So what we did is that the self-determined teams used to be the norms by that time, and they formed their own teams. And the allocation of subcells, what we did is that we choose and allocated cells which are close to the place of stay. If somebody is staying in the northeast corner of the city, we used to allocate cells only near about that place. So that way we were able to again cut down on time as well as on distance. So this went on well, and we were able to complete it in time. When we came to June-July 2021, especially in Coimbatore, the numbers were going up in COVID, and there was a lot of apprehension was there, and the people were anxious, and especially the family members were anxious about their wards and spouses. So then we called for a meeting. We collected feedback from the participants, and we also consulted our advisors. And after taking consideration about all the facts, we had no other way but to defer the survey for that period. So ultimately, the survey for June-July 2021 was deferred. We are going to do it in future. The latest season, 2020 to February-March, we have moved further. So now that we have learned a lot, and we are able to find out what is good for the participants, what is convenient for them. So we allowed the participants to form their own teams. We also asked them to choose their own convenient subcells from the map circulated to them, and also they had the flexibility of doing it on a particular day or a particular date to suit their choice. All we did is to give them the map wherein the subcells are indicated, and we asked them to complete the survey of subcells within a certain time. The first round within 15 days, and the second round another 15 days. That way, the participants were very comfortable. They were able to do it in time, and they were also very comfortable. So this proved to be a hit among the participants. All we did is to just remind them in advance and follow up for due completion. So that way, now that the fifth season has just been completed, leaving out one season which was deferred, we have learned a lot, and the participants are also learning a lot. And now we have come to a stage wherein the participants own the entire atlas. Instead of we coordinating, instead of we telling them what and where to do it, now we have reached a stage wherein the participants really know what to do and when to do and how to do about it. And that way our job is a lot more stressful nowadays, and a lot more less stressful nowadays. And the birding community, the participants are also enjoying the way in which they bird for the survey. So things are evolving in a particular way, and we are happy about it. We have another 2 seasons to go, and hope everything goes well in the days to come. These are some of the experiences and initiatives and activities which we have done so far. Hope this is of use to the other participants who are listening to us and other general viewers. Now it is my time to thank the organizers of the symposium who offered space and time for us, and especially to Mr. Praveen, who was a big motivating factor for all of us. I wish the other atlasers best of time in the days to come. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you very much, Coimbatore team, for the wonderful talk. It just shows that, like, though we have a blueprint from one city, and we are trying to implement for another city, there are so many things which will change, and things, uncertain things like COVID comes, and you have to adapt. So I have time for a couple of questions for you. So let me take the first one. There are a couple of people who have asked this question separately also. In Coimbatore Bird Atlas, were schools and other educational institutes involved in the survey?
Yes, Praveen. Especially among the college students, particularly in the case of the biology and zoology and natural science students, they show keen interest. And we have about 7-8 college students who are part of this survey. And in successive seasons, we get the juniors. And some of the people who participated in the first season, 2020, now they've graduated and they are now into the PG courses, but they are still, they continue to be with us. And they are getting into, we are grooming them to be the front runners in the days to come. School students, whichever school students are interested, we encourage them to come with their parents.
Got it. Thank you. And there is another question. Since the birding time is 6 to 9 a.m., how does the surveys affect species like raptors, which are active during later half of the day? Can you comment on your current results and how it has affected?
True, the question is very pertinent because we are guided by the people who have done the survey and scientists who guide us, and based on their inputs, we try and do it only between 6 and 9, and in some cases we may go up to even 10 o'clock. But especially during the dry season, the sun is coming out a little bit early, and by the time it is 8:30, it is particularly hot. And there are some instances and there are some records there wherein we have reported many raptors also.
All right, Charu Sharma, who asked that question, I think you would want to join the methodology session in the afternoon, because these are some of the points which we'll have to discuss on how much a bird atlas can cover and what are the cost benefits. So thank you for that question. There is one more question again on the participation. Have participants from other streams outside zoology and botany streams like agriculture, engineers been a part of this?
Sure, definitely. There are many people who are professionals working in IT companies, and there are also engineering students who have shown interest, and they're also a part of it. As for agriculture students, so far we have not come across any student, at least in Coimbatore, but we invite them. We are looking forward to having them in future also.
Okay, the channel is open. You may have more questions in the Discord channel, so feel free to visit and answer those questions. But thank you very much, Bhavi and Arulvelan, for sharing your Coimbatore Bird Atlas experience. While the COVID was going on, you managed to pull up so many things together. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. It's time for the next talk. I would like to invite Shamli and Premchand to talk about Kerala Bird Atlas. This is a slightly different kind of initiative compared to the other ones which you have to talk, because this is a statewide initiative. So the scale is different. Their stories would be slightly different. The challenges they face are slightly different. So over to you, Shamli and Premchand, to talk about Kerala Bird Atlas.
Hi, everyone. I'm so proud to present India's first statewide Bird Atlas program to you, the Kerala Bird Atlas. Myself, Shamali, one among the huge community of Kerala Bird Atlases, which is over 1,000 volunteers. And I have with me Mr. Premchand Raghuvaran, who is one among the bird coordination team, to share this incredible journey of Bird Atlas with you. Coming to Kerala Bird Atlas, which is Asia's largest citizen science program in terms of the spatial coverage and the number of species recorded, the total Bird Atlas survey was carried out during a span of 5 years from 2015 to 2020 by conducting survey twice a year, including the dry season and wet season, to observe the migratory species. And the whole survey data could record over 0.3 million records of 380 species from 25,000 checklists. And we have surveyed around 3,000 sampling locations, which was over 10% of the total area of Kerala. And I hereby want to do a disclaimer that I won't be touching to generic or common topics that could be covered by other atlases. Rather, I will be focusing on the unique features of Kerala Bird Atlas program during this session. And I would like to emphasize the fact that we have critically filtered and analyzed the whole survey data, and we have come up with the species distributions of birds in Kerala. We also compared the different effect of different land use on the species assemblage, the factors affecting the species distribution, and also the potential impacts from climate change on the bird distribution. And then our researcher, Ashish Jha, has even modeled the distribution of around 150 species and predicted that there could be a decline of certain species. For example, Malabar grey hornbill, that in future there could be a species decline for that particular species. Coming to the sampling protocol, the state was divided into grids of size 6.6 kilometers square, and the grids were further divided into quadrants of 3.3 kilometers square, and each quadrant was further subdivided into 9 subcells, and 1 subcell per quadrant was selected for the survey, which was a random selection. Thus, around 3,000 subcells were surveyed for the whole Bird Atlas program. And how did it happen and what did it happen? We had a kickoff meeting where the independent birders from whole Kerala come across and met in one place, and we sat and discussed about the concerns, the practicalities, the issues, the suggestions that they could put forward. And we explained the whole of Bird Atlas protocol to them, and we were discussing how it should be conducted, how the birders should be coordinated, and who should be coordinated. So we come up with the concept of district coordinator, where peoples were selected from each district, and they will be coordinating, and they will be taking responsibility to cover the subcells of that particular district. But we had few issues because we had the theories and strategies with us, but we didn't have the practical experience how it will be when it is converted or when it is implemented in the field. So we had to start somewhere, but where to start from the 14 districts? There we come across 2 districts that we could start the survey because they were considered ideal to start the survey as because of 2 reasons actually. And one is Alappuzha. And why Alappuzha is because it is the smallest district in Kerala, so the spatial coverage is less. And another speciality of Alappuzha is that they don't have forest cover, so we don't have any forest cells to cover. So that is an easy catch, because forest cells, we need permission from the forest department. Sometimes we need high logistic support from the forest department. Since there was no forest cells, it was an easy catch to cover Alappuzha as a pilot survey. Then we picked Thrissur. We picked Thrissur because we had huge number of independent birders in Thrissur, and we had the student support from the forestry college and high logistic support from the forest department in Thrissur. Though we had more or enough and more forest cells in Thrissur, we took it as a challenge to understand what will be the constraints when we start the forest cells, when we focus on forest cells in 2 seasons. So we have to learn the lesson. So we picked Thrissur as a challenge, and also because there are high resources, so it is a comparatively easy challenge, and we took Alappuzha as it is an easy catch to start the survey. And as I mentioned earlier, we could really understand the major constraints that we will be facing for the future district surveys. So one was the constraints that is associated with the wet season survey. One of the things is that we lost 2 years due to the massive flood and rain that was faced by Kerala. So we couldn't do survey during that flood years. Another thing is that there were very few birders who come during the wet season to conduct the bird survey. So it was a pretty difficult task to coordinate the birders during the wet season. Another thing is that to conduct the survey with the bird atlas time frame, it was pretty difficult due to the availability of sunlight and less detection of species. So we come across all these constraints during the start of the survey as we started during the wet season. And since we have identified the constraints, we come up with strategies that could overcome the constraints. For example, if there was less species detection, we had to resurvey the cell. And if there is less availability of sunlight during the time frame, the time where the sunlight comes should be focused for the survey the very next time. So all those strategies were coming up due to the identified constraints. And coming to the forest cells, what we applied is that in Thrissur, we applied the same strategy to the forest cells. Like we will coordinate the independent birders, they will go to the forest cells and they will survey. But it was a massive failure as there was a huge amount of resource wastage and the cells were less accessible, so couldn't complete the survey. And there were network issues. So there was, and the support, the logistics support was also a problem when it was done independently. So all these constraints were identified when we had the pilot survey in Thrissur. So how we tackled forest cells? We tackled forest cells by coordinating and organizing a proper forest bird surveys in Kerala. So we have discussed with the forest department and organized the forest bird surveys during the weekends. Why weekends? Because we could get maximum birders during the weekend. So the weekend was resource rich and the forest bird survey was in hand with the forest department. So we got the whole support, logistical support from the forest department. And coming to the subcells, the strategy was we have clustered the subcells and base camps were allocated according to the clusters. So after the survey, we will have the whole forest, whole bird survey report. Along with that, we will also cover the forest cells that is residing in that particular region. So that was a huge success and we could produce the report within few days after the completion of survey. So the forest department was happy with the effort that we have put in. So there was high support and it was a marathon of forest survey during the weekends during both season, and that was a huge success how we have did it. Certain cells in the forest areas were in less accessible mountains and we have tried it 2 to 3 times, but if we couldn't approach it, we go for the replacement of those subcells. And in that case, we replace those subcells using a formula where we either choose a neighboring cell from the quadrant or we may choose any other subcells from that particular quadrant. And luckily, we only had to replace a very few subcells in this scenario. Getting to the Kannur model, it is the only district which completed the survey within a year. So it is a successful model which can be replicated. They have kick off their meeting with senior most birders to discuss about the regions, and they had a proper strategy to cover the cells by picking the farthest cell to cover first, and they have allocated the clusters to the independent birders according to their birders' native location, so they can easily approach the cells. And they followed up constantly with this independent birders. They coordinated it in a systematic way, and they had high resources as they could pull the student community from different colleges into the birding activity. Along with that, they received a huge support from the forest department. So this was a success model. And I will stop here and I will pass on to Mr. Premchand to continue the journey of Kerala Bird Atlas. Thank you.
Thank you, Shamli, for the wonderful introduction about Kerala Bird Atlas. Now we can look into the Idiki district, how we manage the atlas in one of the largest district and high forest area and a less number of birds. Idiki has around 404 subcells. So what we've done is we have divided into clusters, and some clusters are assigned to the other district birds who have completed the atlas. So and we have meet up together and decide the dates which they are coming, their available date. Maybe in WhatsApp group also we have discussed about that, and so we have blocked the date for each district team so that others can plan other areas also. So also the accommodation and transport is provided by the social forestry. So we can avoid the conflict of if two teams is coming at the same date. So the shortage of the vehicle is also there. So so we very well managed for the Idiki, and we put the competition element like we will compare the status and the pending this much clusters or this much checklist are pending for the each district, so that they can plan accordingly. And forest surveys are also planned in weekends, which will not overlay with the other district plan. We make it as a calendar so everyone can participate. We can ensure that most of them can participate. Okay, now we can move to other issues in forest. While we doing the forest surveys, the one of the main issue is that network coverage issue. So that using eBed, we may get we not get the exact hotspot on the location. So what we done is the coordinator creates a hotspot ahead of the survey using the subcell number and provide those information. So participants who are coming to, and before coming to the survey, they will create a dummy checklist. So when we come to the subcell, they can check the previously locations, recent locations, and select those from the recent locations. That is one of the way we have covered the network issues. Then coming to the finding the location, we use locus map as well as the my map. And locus map is a commonly used offline map. So there will be some border will be marked, or the subset color will be different for the completed one and the reviewed one, like that, so that bidders can easily identify whether we are going to the correct way as well as the not completed the one. In the locus map and my map, the location will be shown like in the Google map. When we are moving, it will point to the arrow to the location. So in the time we will communicate with the our forest guides. So that was very useful for the offline map for the forest surveys. And each district has their own KML file with the subcell details. So what we done is that if we are planning to go any district, then the bidders will load the particular district KML file to the locus map or in my map. And that will simplify the process to reach the exact locations. And in my maps also we can plan the route prior to the bedding atlas. So we will get an exact idea how much time will take from my home to the locations. And if we are going to subsides, how the path, how we need to plan, cover the area like that we have done. And one of the easiest way to cover one subcell is, in my experience, we will plan with the 2 experienced birders and 2 amateur role. The others, total 4 members will go to one cell and park the vehicle in one side and go. One team will cover half an hour and the other team will cover half an hour depending on the route. So all these things we can plan before going to the subcell which are not familiar to us. And in the last lab, what we have tried to reach or cover the maximum percentage of the cell atlas. So we closely monitor to achieve that level of percentage completion. And first we have done, what we done is that what are the incomplete clusters where we have set the priority with a smaller number of checklists are pending. So first notify that, and we have prepared the Excel sheet, Google sheet, and with the central, north, south area of Kerala divided. And in the central area, they have mapped, and like this pending subcell is one. So first what we done, complete all those subcells with a high priority and ask the birders to block their subsets which they can complete within the time period. And then we compete the state and district level. Like in the last lab, we have competed in the central, north, south area, so that everyone can point on their neighboring areas, even though if a birders are not available to go there, then if anyone get an clarity or anyone is willing to do the subcell, then he can join the particular district group and ask whether anyone is coming. And when other persons are coming, then the same district birders will get motivated, and they are also doing the atlas. Okay, then coming to the publications. These are the publications we have done. Current science and atlas of birders of Alappuzha and Thrissur. What we have done in the first lab, the Alappuzha and Thrissur is completed. So after completing, we have published the atlas book for Alappuzha district as well as Thrissur district with the Minister of Forest at that time. And finally, we have published the Atlas of the Birds of Kerala. And this is the content of the Atlas book. Each district, the wet season, dry season. And here on the month we have pointed, and the area of coverage is also shown in this picture. Then coming to the vote of thanks, I use this opportunity to thanks all the volunteers and the NGOs and organizations which provide the tremendous support for this completion of Kerala Bed Atlas. I would like to special thanks to the Kerala Agricultural University, Bed Count India, NCF, eBed, etc. Also, giving my grateful thanks to the Bed Atlas coordination team. They have done a wonderful job as a volunteer. Some beds names are given here, and the research Ashish is give what is the outcome of the Bed Atlas. He done a wonderful job also. Then the Bed Atlas analysis team, Abhinanda, Shin, Raj, Jaipal, Robin, Suhail, Tarun, etc. And special thanks to the core team, Namisara and Praveen. Thank you.
Thank you, Shamili and Premchand, for the wonderful presentation. It's something which I think would help a lot of other Western Ghats states and probably Himalayan states also to plan. Some of the tricks of the trade which has been tried in Kerala, some of them successful, some of them failure, so that they don't repeat the same mistake here. There are a few questions on the channel. I will read out the questions. You could answer. The first question I would take is Ranjana is asking, how did you engage students into birding for your atlas?
Can I, sir?
Yeah, go ahead, because you got engaged as a student. So.
Yeah. So since the Kerala Bird Atlas or Kerala Agriculture University was a partner of the Kerala Bird Atlas program, the forestry students already had a course on ornithology. So they were into birding since their college days. So we could pull out the interested birders actually into this session. And besides the forestry college, there were students from veterinary college who were interested in birding, and they were active participants of Kerala bird monitoring team. So we had the other surveys like Asian waterbird census, which happened in Thrissur. So we have these two colleges who were actively participating in such surveys. So there were a birding community among the students who could really contribute to the Kerala Bird Atlas program, and we could easily utilize the whole student community. As we are going to different places and we are having the opportunity to enjoy the birding. So students were much excited to be part of the Atlas program, and they supported really well. So yeah, that's how the students got engaged into it. And that's the part from Thrissur. But there were other states, other districts where the student community were invited into the birding. They were trained and they were included for mass birding. Example, in Kannur, the college students were included into the birding activity, and they were mixed with the senior birders to go to the bird cells and to survey. So they were trained in that way too. So yeah. Sir, anything to add from your side, sir?
Yeah, thanks. You covered everything. Thanks, family. There is one question, Prem. I think you should be able to answer this one from Paul Pop. I used my maps for my decision on occupancy of 2 species of birds in Idukki district. However, recently I'm finding that my map seems to have some issues such as not exporting the complete list of coordinates to the desktop. This means that could lose data since the interface doesn't directly show the coordinates. Have you faced this issue? How good is Locus compared to my maps? Prem, I think you have tried both. You should be able to tell.
Yeah, I used both Locus and my maps. Actually, my maps is very helpful for me. I don't face any issues like that because the KML file we have received from for each district will be loaded prior to going, and we can exactly point the locations. Before that, I will add a pinpoint on the location where we need to stop the vehicle and plan the route. Everything is fine in my case. So for non-forest cells, I really, it is very helpful for me to route the my map.
Between locus and my map, is there any good or bad?
I think in offline, my map support me a lot, even though in the forest area, I can see the, I mean, route exact is similar. In locus, we need to load the file and it will take some, if we are closing it and while reopening, it will take some delay. But in the accuracy wise, both are same.
Got it. Thanks. So there are a couple of more questions. Maybe you will be able to answer it on the Slack, or there could be others who are in the Bird Atlas team who can answer specific question on Kannur, Palakkad, etc. is there. So thank you very much, Shamli and Prem, for your time. So let's move now to the last of the talks today for the morning. That's the Pune Bird Atlas, which is a work in, it's an ongoing work. We have Ranjana and Dr. Pankaj from the Pune team to presenting Pune Bird Atlas to us. There are some interesting features. There are some nice features. You could see that the atlas is following the birder communities. The large birder community in Pune is actually the one who is going to herald this bird atlas into more and more cities like this. So let's hear from both of them about their experiences with Pune Bird Atlas. Over to you.
Thank you.
Hello, myself Pankaj, and I'll be talking about Pune Bird Atlas on behalf of the core team. Myself and Ranjana would be covering this particular topic. Well, we say Pune tithe kai une, meaning what is not there in the Pune city. But yes, Bird Atlas was not there, so that's why we came up with this tagline called Pune tithe Bird Atlas une. So this is the journey of the Pune Bird Atlas, and I would like to share it with you. Some of the challenges that we faced and the possible solutions that we have come up with. So I'll be talking mainly about a few points, starting with why this bird atlas was needed, what were the methods that we used, how the project was initiated, during early 2020, and I'll also share some summary of the exercise that we did. Well, we all know that due to pandemic, there has been a lot of impact on the field work. So of course, Pune Bird Atlas was also affected due to pandemic, and we'll also be sharing that a little bit. We use a couple of innovative methods in implementation of Pune Bird Atlas, and it's still ongoing project. So I would like to also discuss a little bit about that. And my colleague Ranjana would discuss about challenges and solutions and way forward. So this is the glimpse of what this talk is going to be about. So why Pune? Well, it's a historical city. It's situated at the edges of the Western Ghats, which is one of the global biodiversity hotspots. And of course, many of you know that it's known for its monuments, it's known for its delicacies from the region. And of course, a lot of ecologists, who come from the Pune city. It is surrounded by hills and birds, and not only that, but also bird watchers. There's a very good, crowd of bird watchers and bird photographers who are originally from Pune city. It's also a very rapidly changing city. It's expanding continuously, it's growing continuously. It's a metro city, and there has been a lot of changes happening to the land use around. Therefore, biodiversity documentation is of utmost importance. Right now, apart from PBA, there is no long-term research effort that has been put into the city's biodiversity. So it's pretty much important. We all know, I guess, the importance of why long-term monitoring is crucial, especially when we are facing the 6 mass extinction and the climate change. So Pune city is a huge city, as I mentioned. It's when we started, the city's limit encompassed around 330 square kilometer of area. So we are just talking about Pune Municipal Corporation. And Pune and Pimpri-Chinchwad, these are like two adjacent municipal corporations, and if you put them together, it's like really vast area to cover. So that's why we came up with just the Pune municipal corporation area as the Pune Bird Atlas. However, as we proceeded, just last year there has been amendments to the city's limits, and 23 villages were incorporated into the city's limit, which now has increased the city's area, beyond 400 square kilometer, which is like really huge area to cover. However, going by the old limits, old boundaries, we have started the Pune Bird Atlas project. And following the protocols from other bird atlases, learning from them, such as the Mysuru Bird Atlas and Kerala Bird Atlas and other bird atlases, we have used the same protocol, same size of the grid, 2.2 into 2.2 kilometer, the larger grids, and then we have 1.1 into 1.1 kilometer subgrids. So when we did that, we came up with 276 such subgrids, which still is a huge area to cover as such. So this is how the map of Pune city, Pune municipal corporation boundary looks like. We have just highlighted some of the major locations from the city. If you grid it, it would look something like this, and if you subgrid it, gives you a nice mesh like framework to study it. There is some area which looks empty in the map. It's basically the cantonment area, the defense area where we do not have access. So that's why it has been omitted out from the overall sampling area. So the method that we used were again in line with the other bird atlases. We identified two distinct seasons which the Pune city experiences based on the past climate data. So these we classified as summer and winter. We have not considered monsoon because we all know the difficulties that one may face sampling during monsoon. So since it's a citizen-oriented project, we did not want people to, get into difficulties. That's why we have just sampled. We are just sampling in this month of summer and winter. So summer we have identified from January to April, and then winter from September to December. Pune city has got a lot of wetlands. It has got rivers. So a lot of migratory activity you would expect. We have come up with a sampling time of 6 a.m. to 12 p.m., which is comfortable birding time as such. And each birder would go into the subgrid, will make a list of eBird list of 15 minutes, and from each subgrid one can make 2 to 4 lists is what the protocol talks about. So just to show you, suppose you are a bird watcher holding the binocular in your hand, just like the person is here, and this is our bigger grid 2.2 into 2.2, and that's our smaller grid 1.1 to 1.1. So within this, imaginarily one can further divide the subgrid to 4 sections, 4 quadrants, and ideally person should occupy the whole of the 4 quadrants to make lists of 15 minutes across. So if you are doing everything fine and perfect, then we would be spending more than 60 minutes per subgrid, and just the bare minimal would be 30 to 45 minutes of time in one subgrid. So that is the protocol that we have come up with. Apart from the species data, we also collect habitat data. Now this is I would say that this is an additional thing that we have come up with, which some of the other bird atlases do not have. So we believe that just like we are collecting data of species, it's also important to collect data about the habitat. So we have set up a EpiCollect form about which there is another demo, and we collect very simple habitat parameters in the yes and no kind of a format. So it's very easy for the users to just add in these information after they collect the species data. So this is the people, these are the people who are involved in this project, and as you can see, all of them look happy and smiling because they're part of Pune Bird Atlas. And we have support from eBird, Map Marker, and EpiCollect 5, and we also have a project dashboard on the bird count website. So talking about the project initiation, we started early 2020, and as we are all aware of, just after that pandemic hit, and we lost the pace. But since 2020, now we have more than 100 volunteers, and there are 7 core team members who are looking after the Pune Bird Atlas. So far, people have contributed around 575 lists, which is, I would say, really a huge number of lists, given this project, given the pandemic and other situations. So just to show you our project dashboard of summer 2020 looks like this. The grids which are highlighted in gray and purple are the grids which are partially or fully covered. There are lists available for it, and those which are colored in, I guess, orange or so, are not really, sampled. So just to give you a summary of across the seasons, starting from summer 2020 till summer of 2022, we have sampled between 33 to 79 grids. So these grids meaning subgrids, not really the bigger grids, the subgrids. And we have more or less between 117 to 154 species recorded across the seasons. So if you look at the total number of unique species observed every year, we have around 112 to 162 species, which we have covered across these 3 years. But of course, there was, a time when we could not do much, which is, starkly observed here. That's winter 2020. Just after the summer began, COVID pandemic, hit the Pune city, and Pune city was one of the major, hotspots. So these are some of the pictures from the field. People for 4 generations birding together. You can see in the middle, picture where there are, we are getting a response from people of all the age groups and various strata. So this is how it looks like. And again, as you can see, all of them are smiling because they're a part of the Pune Bird Atlas. So that's the kind of teamwork we are doing throughout the city. So the COVID pandemic really has impacted overall execution of the project. Pune city was one of the hottest of hotspots for the COVID pandemic, and that's why we had to really, play safe during the COVID times. We, urged people to take care and follow all the guidelines. But we also continued our soft outreach through social media and news article and so on and so forth. After the pandemic, we have restarted the project. We are gaining the pace, and perhaps this is the first year when we will be completing both dry and the wet season, summer and winter season as such. So just talking about the couple of innovative, activities that we did is we did a lot of outreach through social media, through news articles, through popular media. We also had a couple of radio talks organized where we talked about Pune Bird Atlas specifically. We also have participation of journalists in the Pune Bird Atlas group, so they are always looking for some sort of news, and whenever they get a chance, they write about it. So that's actually a lot of outreach without doing much as such. We have identified ward coordinators, Pune being one of the biggest of the cities, where the Bird Atlas is implemented. We wanted it to be, properly organized, this whole project execution. So that's why we have identified some ward coordinators, and they, coordinate the activities at their ward level. Apart from that, we have promoted some of the volunteers to the core team members. So Ranjana, my colleague, is one of those volunteers who really took a lot of interest, and we thought that she would really make a good, addition to the core team. So now she has been into the core team. We have given public access to the project files, maps, and everything. They are available on Google Drive for everyone to use it. And we have been giving training about in navigation and epicalic file for habitat data collection. So that's all from my side. Now my colleague Ranjana will take over.
So I am Ranjana, and I joined PBA as a participant. And I quickly found out that birding, even with eBird for yourself, and birding for a formal project with a strict protocol, is very different. And I had a lot of self-doubt in the beginning. Am I counting the birds accurately enough? And what if I spend a few minutes trying to capture a warbler that I cannot ID? Am I breaking protocol? And another thing that is very hard to do is that, oh, you see a great species just after you stopped your list, but you cannot add it in. So you feel PBA is missing out, even if not you. So that was one aspect. People also struggled with applications at times. Map marker and loading the grid was a little complicated. Others were not familiar with eBird. And also, there were questions about how do I space my samples in the grid if half of the grid is inaccessible. So in order to address all these concerns, core team members started accompanying some of the more active birders, and just oversaw the process of making the checklist to see that it is correctly followed and all of that. So that helped many of us gain more confidence. And another good thing that the core team members did earlier on is that they announced a big get together on one of the takeries, which are the hills in Pune, which are very popular with birders. And so basically a lot of people joined us for birding over there, and then the coordinators the core team members had a chance to give some on-field training. So we kind of split up into 2 or 3 groups, and each one used the app and had a chance to quickly get their issues with using the app resolved. Okay, and then as new birders kept joining in, the core team actually expanded to include more of the active birders within it. So that is when I became core team member also. And so what we were supposed to do was to coordinate birding within our area. So the easiest way to break up Pune into areas was to use the PMC ward map. So I was the coordinator for the Karvinagar ward. So if any new birders joined the group from my locality, then I would accompany them for birding, help them with their apps and stuff like that. And that helped get some of the momentum up. Now, so keeping up the momentum has always been, an ongoing challenge. And one way of doing it, of course, is to share your plans on the group in advance so that people can join. And also to share anything interesting that you saw in your birding outing. And whether it is behaviors or sightings or, call recordings, whatever it is. And that kind of increased the level of conversation on the group. Some expert would weigh in on the behavior that was seen, and all of that created a kind of enthusiasm. And occasionally when interest used to start flagging, less activity on the group, we would call a Friday evening meeting to brainstorm. And actually getting all the birders together on one meeting helped too, because they got to know each other, and they would team up with each other even if they were not very close, and go out birding together. So after these meetings also, we have seen that enthusiasm has occasionally picked up. However, as you can see in this checklist data over here, enthusiasm has been going up and down, and strangely enough, during the pandemic, and when the lockdowns were the strictest, that is when you see the most birding happening. And outside of the pandemic, after the things started returning to normal, then we saw a drastic reduction in the number of checklists being submitted. So in this season, what we did is we took a drastic step and cut our birding target from covering absolutely every grid to covering a subset of evenly spaced out grids. Okay. Another thing we did, that instead of targeting 4 checklists per grid, we said 2 checklists per grid are also okay. And what we found is that birding did pick up after that. I think when a person knows that if I go out this morning, even for an hour, I can tick off an entire grid, it is very satisfying, which is possible with 2 checklists, and it's not always possible with 4 checklists. So that was a motivator. Also, birders, traveled a little further away from home to cover a remote grid. So that way we got a lot more spatial coverage as well. So this, in a nutshell, has been our experience so far, and I'll let Pankaj take forward the presentation.
Thank you, Ranjana and Pankaj, for the entertaining talk from the happy group of Pune bird atlases. And interesting to see how COVID has brought in things which we didn't expect, having more birding during COVID times. So there is question, another question on the Discord. I will read out the question from Karthik. Interesting classification of the summer season. I do not understand the difficulty in sampling. I do understand the difficulty in sampling during monsoon months, but could you elaborate on why the months of January and February, which are typically considered winter, were included in this classification?
Okay. We all know that weather has been pretty erratic, and the climate is quite fluctuating these days. So when we dig up the data, the climate data, we found that January, February, does not really classify as winter for the at least last 5 years, if you look at it. So that's why we thought that let's include it in the as a summer as such. But of course, I mean, this classification is pretty fuzzy. And when we analyze the data, finally we would be pulling all the data and then looking at the patterns.
Okay, thank you. I had a question which is unrelated. You have actually collected more than bird data using EpiCollect, right? How has been the response of the volunteers? Were they able to manage it? Were they able to, did they face challenges in actually collecting the data? Could you reflect on it?
You mean the EpiCollect data?
Yeah, the non-bird data which you're collecting apart from it, yeah.
Sure. So we had some training sessions about EpiCollect, the non-bird data, habitat data. And you would see that, I mean, collecting bird data is pretty easy and straightforward, as we all know, but the habitat data would also add value. But, some people sometimes they do not go for it. So the only challenge is whether people are motivated to collect the data or not. When it comes to data collection procedure, it's pretty easy. It's again pretty straightforward. There is a smartphone app available and pretty straightforward questions. So data collection procedure is quite easy as such.
Okay. Thank you to both of you. There may be more questions coming out in the Discord. Since both of you are there in Discord, feel free to pick and answer it. Thank you again. So one announcement to all of you. We right now will break for lunch, but we will actually be running the demo video. It's a 40-minute video. You can have your lunch and keep it running, or you can revisit the video any point in time. And the questions for the demo, there will be a Discord channel where you can post the questions. There are 4 demos by Abhinand, by Rajarajan, by Pankaj, and by George. They are available in Discord. They will answer specific questions. The intent of the demo is not to go out with like everything sorted out. You will tomorrow go and do it. It's only to make sure that what has been done, what kind of tech tools have been developed, what can be reused, what is expected of a person to reuse it, like what kind of knowledge he needs or training he needs, so that you bring the right people, let them watch the video again, and let them actually start adopting the tools for the cities or states which are planning to do Atlas. So that's the intent of the demo. Please don't expect that everything will be clear out of it. You may have to revisit. you or somebody from your bigger team may have to revisit it. So for now, the live session where we are all talking is closing for lunch. We will come back at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock will be on a Zoom. The Zoom meeting link has been posted by Preeti already in the channel. All of you are invited. We will go into breakout rooms where people who have actually done the atlas will also be there, and people who want to do the atlas will also be there. So we will discuss together, and there will be moderators in each group who will actually summarize the discussion after the 45-minute discussion is over. So post noon, 2 o'clock, let us meet at the Zoom link, which has been shared on the channel. Please watch the demo and please come back with questions on the demo on the Discord channel. We will have them answered on the Discord. We will not be taking questions on the live like this. Okay, thank you very much, and see you at 2 o'clock in the Zoom channel. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the tech demonstration session of the Atlas mini-symposium. If you've been listening to the previous talks, you may have recognized that conducting an atlas is a fairly Herculean task, from its inception to designing the atlas, organizing ourselves, collecting the data, processing that data, analyzing it, and finally publishing it. We've helped a couple of teams do this now, and we've recognized that much of it can be optimized, standardized, and even automated to make this easier and faster for teams to conduct and execute. One such tool is the Atlas Grid Generator, and possibly the first one you'd want to use if you started thinking of conducting an atlas in some area of your interest. We've standardized a couple of things, and I won't go into the details. If you're curious, then you can either join the tech session or the sampling design session later this evening. The tool itself is fairly self-explanatory. We've explained a bunch of the decisions that we've made on the right here in this panel. But the one thing that I will sort of skim over is that the subcell is, each of these subcells is the sampling unit, and we randomly sample some of them within each grid in red that we extrapolate over. And the quadrant, it sort of helps in making sure that we sample fairly evenly within that grid. And the quadrants present depending on what spatial coverage you choose. We sample each subcell for an hour in 4 into 15-minute lists. And so to help you make the decision of where to sample and how much to sample, this is a good tool based on how much resources you have, how many people are helping with the atlas, and how many hours they can spend. So if you have 180 subcells to sample, you have to spend 180 hours over a single season to collect your data. And based on the spatial coverage, the number of subcells you have to sample will change. 11%, which is the resolution the Kerala Atlas was done at, you have to put in 180 hours for sampling 180 subcells. You could go up to a 50% spatial coverage, which means you have to put in about 670 hours of effort. We have some preset spatial coverage percentages that we've sort of standardized. You can pick and choose based on those and how much resources you have at hand. The set seed function basically lets you, the sampling is done at random within each grid, and the set seed function makes sure that this randomness is reproducible. So if you change the seed, it will change the subcell sampled within each grid. And this lets you pick it and then sort of download it and fix it. So if you remember the seed and the spatial coverage, and it should generate the same map. So this is for the Hyderabad city, which is the sort of default for this app. You can, of course, select any other area of interest here, and you can upload them either in the format of KML or shapefiles. And if it's a shapefile, you have to upload all associated files, which I'm in this manner, which I'm demonstrating, which is probably the only demonstration that I'm going to do. And this is the Hassan district, and it should generate the same thing. And you can pick 11% just so that it's not overwhelming. The other thing that I do want to, so like I said, it helps you make the decision of how much you're going to sample, but also I think it helps you streamline the rest of the process. So if you download the files and in whichever format that you'd like, it should give you a couple of files, the KML files for each, the subcell, the quadrant, and the grid. It should also give you an associated CSV, which will open in a second. But we've also sort of like standardized the nomenclature of how we name the subcells and the cells and the quadrants, which is basically to make sure that if you just have the subcell information, then it should automatically give you the latitude and the longitude and which cell and quadrant it falls into. And if you have this Excel file should sort of help you go through the rest of your data processing. If you can add which lists you use within each subcell. The shape files are named based on these subcells, so visualizing it can get easier as well. I would recommend that you play with this tool just to see what all it can do. And before you even if you haven't decided an area that you're interested in, there might be a couple of bugs, and you can write to me or Praveen to help you if it's not working or you discover any bugs. Hope you find this useful, and thank you.
Welcome to this demo of Atlas Dashboard and other auxiliary tools. I'm Razarajan from Coimbatore City Bird Atlas. Atlas Dashboard is a very useful interactive web-based tool which is used to see the progress of the survey over time in a particular season and to eventually plan the survey. This dashboard is hosted online, and just like any map, you can zoom, you can pan, you can click on a subcell to know information about it. For example, it shows the information about village name, site name, and the links of the list submitted. And it uses color schemes to tell information about it. For example, if it is in orange, it means the cell is yet to be surveyed. If it is in purple, all the required lists are submitted and it has been reviewed. Then the shades of gray tells us about information about number of lists submitted. If it is lighter gray, it means only one list submitted. Likewise, if it is in the darkest gray, then all 4 lists are submitted. It is not in purple just because it is not reviewed. So the Atlas planners can use this dashboard to see how a season is progressing and eventually use it for the planning. That is to know which team of participants to be sent to which subcell. In order to efficiently use this dashboard, it is very important to know how this dashboard works. So in the front end, we have the dashboard. The data to the dashboard is fed by the Google Sheet in the backend. So whenever the sheet is modified, the dashboard gets updated instantaneously. So next question is how to get dashboard for your Atlas. This is a quite long process. I'm going to give you a quick overview about it. Create your own GitHub account with your Atlas email ID. Then go to any dashboard and extract the username and attach it to the github.com, and you will reach the GitHub profile of that particular Atlas. Then in the repository section, you will find the codes containing it. You can reach it and you can fork it to your own GitHub account. The next step is to get a Google API keys. For support, you can contact Atlas Tech WhatsApp group for this particular process. The next is to get the backend Google Sheet, and I'll cover how to do that. The next thing is there are a few modifications that needs to be done in the index.html page, and you can reach to Atlas Tech WhatsApp group for more support. And once it is ready, you can finally publish the GitHub repository as a web page. So next is how to prepare the backend Google Sheet. You can obtain the template from this link. So it contains three sheets. The first sheet is a coordinate sheet where you populate it with geographical data that you obtain from the grid generator. In the planning, you give information about site and village name. The bird list sheet is where you paste your checklist links. For example, this is a working back in Google Sheet for Coimbatore City Bird Atlas. So in the bird list, we have pasted the corresponding checklist link in its correct place. And in the planning sheet, we have populated with cluster name, village name, etc. etc. So in the coordinate sheet, we have pasted the information that we obtained from the grid generator app. It is very important to know why this backend Google Sheet is important and why pasting correct links in correct places is important. As this data in the Google Sheet is fed to the dashboard, an error could tell us a false information about the progress, which could affect the survey. Post survey, this backend Google Sheet is used one of the input to other apps which generates Atlas results. So a false information affects the Atlas results itself. So in summary, an error leads to an incomplete survey of subcell or revisiting a completed survey cell unnecessarily, and an error in Google Sheet leads to false results of the Atlas itself. Pasting checklist lists to Google Sheet before without tools involve finding where checklist falls, and this is challenging and error-prone process. And it is usually done by one of the two ways. The first way is to use the participant itself to fill the sheets. Edit access to the backend sheet is given to each participant, and they paste their own checklist links on the corresponding subcell space. The second way is assigning a separate team of volunteers to paste the links, and the volunteers use checklist comments to find where the checklist was done for. In case if there is a wrong comments or confusing comments, the checklist coordinates is picked and plotted in the Google Earth to find where that particular checklist is done. Both of this approach is time taking and it's very prone to error, and the error in the Google Sheet could affect the survey, progress, completion, and the result itself. In order to minimize the error and to ease the process, two simple auxiliary tools to paste correct links in correct places is presented and demonstrated here. The two tools are Checklist Summarizer and Checklist Point Visualizer. Checklist Summarizer. It is a simple tool to create the summary data which is used as an input to the point visualizer. It is a very straightforward tool where you need to give input CSV file, which is your downloaded eBird data from your Atlas group account, and then you adjust the date range to filter your data set. Once it's uploaded, the summary table is displayed. Once it's displayed, it is ready for download. Checklist Point Visualizer. It is a tool which really eases the overall process of finding and pasting correct links in correct places. Basically, it visualizes the checklist point data over the grids. In order to create a point visualizer, please go to mymaps.google.com. Then we need to create a new map. For this demo, I have already created a demo point visualizer. The first step is to upload the KML files of subcells and cells that we obtain from Atlas Grid Generator. The next step is use add layer function to import the checklist summary data that we obtain from Checklist Summarizer. In this step, you choose latitude and longitude columns, which is automatically recognized here. In the next step, you choose the column that represents the title of the points, which is submission ID. Then click finish. It takes a couple of seconds to get loaded. Then all the points are displayed over the grids. We can zoom, we can click on it to find the information about it. One can change the symbology of the points for easy visualization, etc. etc. And once this checklist point visualizer is ready, a team of volunteers can go to a particular subcell and click on the checklist point and know quick information about it, validate, and one can go to the checklist page and review species and its count here. And one can visually compare if the track is falling inside the subcell using the checklist visualizer. If everything is correct and satisfactory, the checklist is copied and pasted on the dashboard. Likewise, this checklist link pasting process is done with ease using this visualizer. This visualizer also helps the planning team to know how many checklists are done and where it is done before, and also it helps us to quickly point the checklists which were done in wrong location. Likewise, these are the checklists which are falling outside of our survey locations. This can be easily located, and it is very recommended to use checklist summarizer for every week and update this every week and change colors of the points for every week's summary, and properly find and paste the checklist links on the dashboard to see the proper progress over time. With this, I end this presentation. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone. So this is Pankaj, and in this small demo, we will be talking about Epicalect 5 as well as Map Marker. These two tools we have been using for the Pune Bird Atlas. So let me start first of all sharing the icons of these two tools that we use and how you can take it or how you can download it on your smartphone. So Epicalect 5 data collection tool looks like something like this, and on Google Play you will find a similar icon and you can download this application. It's pretty easy to use application. It works more or less like a Google form where you can add in data. And the second one, that's Map Marker. It looks something like this. Again, very easy to use, more or less like Google Maps, but with some added functionalities. That's why we have been using it for Pune Bird Atlas. So let me start with first Map Marker. So we have the grid files which we have converted into KML, and this KML can be accessed using Map Marker. So on your smartphone, you would download Map Marker, and then you will just import the KML file that has been shared, and it will appear on your screen on your map. Wherever you are in the city, you can locate yourself on Map Marker and you can see in which grid you are. Accordingly, you can navigate across the grids and you can start the checklisting. So Map Marker is pretty simple to use. It's just, for navigation purpose. Slightly complicated would be Epicalect 5. So I'll spend more time on it because it is, I guess, even much better in comparison to some other tools that we have been using. So Epicalect 5 again looks something like this. It has got a web interface as well as an app interface. So you can download the app interface, and app interface is mainly for data collection, mainly for data entry. However, the web interface has got much more. Here you can build forms, you can visualize the data and so on and so forth. So let me take you to the web interface first. So this is my dashboard, and once you log in, you will have such a dashboard. I'm going to the My Projects, where perhaps you would have created multiple projects for your multiple research work. So we have been using Epicalect 5 in Chaturulu Lab for almost 2 years now, and that's why we have got so many projects on which we are working. So this is the project that I have created for Pune Bird Atlas, and this is specifically the covariate data that we are collecting, which is otherwise not possible in eBird. It's slightly difficult to do. So when you go to Pune Bird Atlas, let me click on it, and you can see there are 5,580 entries made by the people. You can go to the details and see how this form was built. So this works more or less like a Google form. It's just that it's pretty user friendly. So you can go to the form builder. If you are starting if you want to create a form, you can have questions like this, and you can add in the questions. For instance, one of the question is whether there is overhead canopy cover in the area where we are moving. So the question is overhead canopy cover, and the answers are yes or no. So when you open it in app, the user will get only two options, yes and no, and the user has to select one of those. So there are all other things like date, assessment, location. So this will be directly taken from your phone location. The date will also be synced with your phone's date whenever you are working. And then few other variables we had put in, such as the road traffic intensity and weather and so on and so forth. So this is the form builder. So in which you can create your own form and then you can work on it. So let me go back to the main important part of this Epicalect 5 where the visualization part comes in. So let me go back to the projects. And as you can see, it's a public project, so anyone can search for Pune Bird Atlas in Epicalect 5, and you will get access to this, form. So I've clicked on the visualization, data visualization, or the view data. So the simplest form of the data visualization is in the form of table, and you can actually see, each one of those entries made by people. So the latest one is 22nd April 2022 at Baner Hills, which has been made by Manali and Ranjana both. So one more interesting thing about is to look at spatial locations and look at how they are across. So as you can see, most of these are clustered at Pune city. I think these two locations are wrongly collected by the smartphone. But anyway, so let me just click on these clusters. So this is the Pune PMC area, and Epicalect has clustered all those locations together. So that's why it looks like this. But if you really want to see what's happening, where exactly is the activity, maximum activity, so this is how it looks like. And if you want to see individual markers or individual data entry points, so this is how they are segregated. So Epicalect 5 would give you even, I would say a better visualization compared to many other platforms which are out there. And here we are simply collecting the predicted data set, which then later on can be correlated with the bird species richness in each of the grids. And then we can actually see, how the species respond to the changes in the habitat. So that is, how the Epicalect 5 works. It similarly has a application interface, app interface, which you can download on the phone. Once you open it, there is a tab called Add Project. So you click on the Add Project, and you can find any open project such as the Pune Bird Atlas, which is still open. So you can access it, and then there is a add entry point. So you add entry, it will ask you for the location. You update the location, and then it will, leave out the form. So you can start clicking on the form. Once the form is filled in, you have to, so it sits on your smartphone in the offline mode. Whenever you have connection, whenever you have internet, you can sync all the entries with the central repository. So once you sync in, then the end user, the manager of the program would get all the entries in their dashboard. So this is a very simple to use application. You can start using it, and you can also play around with the data and see if if there are any problems, you can get back to me. Thank you.
Hi all, welcome to the short demo where we will see how once your Bird Atlas surveys are complete and your data is in place, how you can use some tools and techniques to quickly stitch together some form of Bird Atlas book. So for those of you who have seen the current Bird Atlas books, these kind of bird plates form the heart of the book. So in these bird plates you have the common name of the bird and the scientific name of the bird, page number, name of the bird in the local language, you have a photograph and the photographer's name, and you have these maps and graphs. So you have this map for both the seasons where you did the survey, and you have bar plots which tell what percentage of lists in each season had the bird, and you have these seasonality charts which tell that across the year which weeks and months the bird was seen in the district and which week it was not. So for example, in this greenish warbler plate, you can see that the bird was not seen anywhere in the district in the wet season or in summer, and in dry season the bird was pretty much seen everywhere. And this is just another representation of the seasonality, where we show that in which weeks of the year the bird was seen. So the bar plot and the maps are from the bird atlas data, and the seasonality chart, because it shows data across all the weeks and all the months, that is obtained from the entire data download for the district or state, depending on for which area you are making the bird atlas book. What all tools can be used to generate all these maps and plots and put them all together? So we'll go to the beginning of the book. So the first tool is this tool called print maps. So it's hosted in Bird Count India Shiny Apps account. It's written by Abhinand Reddy of NCF. So this tool can take all your atlas data and make you all those maps and plots. So it needs some inputs. So what those inputs are explained in detail in the document. So it basically needs 5 Excel sheets. We'll call them 1A, 1B, 2, 3 and 4. So this on the first tab there is 1A and 1B which you need to upload. 1A is essentially your atlas group account data. So typically what happens is different people will go and complete different subcells, and they share those checklists to a common atlas eBird group account, and the data download from that group account, once all the subcell data is complete, that Excel sheet is this data 1A which has to be uploaded. So there is a sample that is linked from the document here. I'll quickly open and show also. Yeah, it looks like this, like your typical eBird data download. So once that is done, you upload 1B. So 1B is essentially an Excel sheet which maps all the subcells to the checklists which are there in this data download. So it matches the bird list to atlas subcells. Further details are there. There's a sample here. I'll quickly open and show. Yeah, so you have all your subcells, and beside it you have the checklist information corresponding to that subcell. So typically for one subcell you will have 4 lists for dry and 4 lists for wet, etc. So for this also there is a sample in the user guide. So once 1B and 1A and 1B are uploaded, you go to the second tab. So now it says that there are 306 species, but this includes these large brackets like quail species, maybe raptor species, and there could be birds like green warbler, greenish warbler, which we don't want to show separately, which we say want to take a call that has to be shown in green/greenish warbler together, merged. So data 2 is that merge file. So let me upload that. So there is a So that file looks like this. So you have all your species, some of them which you are removing, some of them which you are merging, and some of them which you are not doing anything at all, you are keeping it as it is. So that file is data_2. Again, there is a sample that is linked here which you can use as reference. So once we do that, that 300 odd species has become 255 species. These are the ones which we want to show in the atlas book. So once this is done, we move to the third tab. So in the third tab, this is less commonly used. So there could be cases where your subcell is below a cliff and it's not reachable. So in such cases, we replace a few subcells. So this is the place to upload subcell replacement file. So again, there is a sample that is available in the document here. You can use that as a reference and upload this only if you have any subcell replacements. So once these data is uploaded, if you come to the fourth tab, you can see that the tool will start drawing the maps. So once it finishes, it will show the first map here, which is for lesser whistling duck. So this top left corner drop down menu you can use to change between different species and see their maps. and the color settings, the size, the orientation, etc. can be tweaked. So you can play with all those settings, and once you're happy, you need not download the maps one by one. You can just click here for download all species maps, and all your 200 odd species, all those files will be downloaded into a single folder. So I'll show you that folder, how it looks like. So it will look like this. So each bird will have its own map. The file name will be the bird name. So separate files will get downloaded to a single folder. So this you keep with you. So this is the first output. Similarly, the bar plots also, the last tab will be plotted. So you can check if these look fine. You can again play with all the settings. Once you're happy, you can click download all bar plots and download all of them. So bar plots are downloaded as two files. There will be one file for dry and one file for wet. So once you download all the bar plots from here, it will look like this. So for Alpine Swift, there is an Alpine Swift dry and there is an Alpine Swift wet, etc. There are two files per species, and the file name is the name of the species itself. So once we have that also, there is this option for seasonality charts. So this, as I told before, is generated based on the entire eBird data, not just the atlas data. So this is data 4 that has to be uploaded. So this is basically, if you're making a bird atlas book for a district, this is the district data that has to be requested, and when the link is available, you download it, and that entire district data is what has to be uploaded as data 4. If it's a state atlas book you're making, entire state data has to be uploaded. You upload that here. Similarly, the seasonality charts will become available here. You can tweak the settings and download all of them, and once you download, they will also sit in a folder like this, file name being the species name, and week by week it will indicate if the bird is seen in that week or month. So once we do this, we have we have all the maps and plots. So what remains are photographs. So images are collected from photographers. You can crowdsource it, and they all have to be cropped to the same size, because it has to fit into the same size box in your layout. So they need to be cropped to the same size. So you crop all the photos, and then you keep all the photos also in one single folder like this. So again, bird species name is the file name. You keep all the birds in a single folder. So next step, you have all the outputs now. Now all this has to be merged together and brought out in a book format. So for that, we use this tool called Scribus. Right. So generating bird plates using Scribus. So Scribus is a free and open source desktop publishing tool. So you can do whatever you do with your normal DTP software or your word processors with Scribus. It also has an extra option of using some scripts to generate multiple pages, multiple repetitive kind of pages, which exactly is what we want while generating those bird plates. So you can download and install Scribus in your PC. So again, this document has all the details that is required. So it also has a sample. So if you download this sample, I'll open and show what it looks like. So Scribus files have this .sla extension. So let's open a bird plate and see what it looks in Scribus. So it looks like any of your other software only. So you have text boxes where you have species name and scientific name and say page number. You have image boxes where you need photographs or some charts. There's another text box here for photographer name, etc. So we can make maybe 200 pages of this manually, and then we can make the book, but that is very cumbersome. So instead of that, we want to use the scripting option of Scribus. So for that, the first thing what we have to do is to make a master Excel sheet. So so you need to make a master Excel sheet like this. So one thing to pay attention to are these column headers here. So you have some page number here and then the name of the species with a column heading called CNAME1, scientific name with column heading called SNAME1, the local language name with some column heading, and you have a column called photo1 which has the file name of the photos of the photos of the bird. Another column called wet1 which has the file name of the wet bar plot, wet season bar plot, another for dry season bar plot, another which has file names for the map, another which has file name for the seasonality. And you have two such entries in one row because we are making one page at a time and there are two species shown in one page. So in the same row you have a second entry and the column headings for that is CNAME2, SNAME2, photo2, etc. You also have a page number column. So here it starts like 24 because probably there were 23 introductory pages before the plate started. So you have put the page number from there. So once you make a master Excel sheet like this, we can now change this Scribus plate into something that will take input from that master Excel sheet and generate all your pages in one go. So there is a detailed video that is linked in the document for this, but to tell you very quickly, what we have to do is we don't need actually catalog grid. We need all the common names to come here one after the other. So for that, what we have to do is we have to say that I need a variable called CNAME1 here instead of the common name. So this CNAME1 is the column header of our master Excel sheet, which we already saw just now. Similarly, this will be %var underscore SNAME1, and in case of images like this, we don't want this image, we want the corresponding image to come. So we right click on the image, content, get image. So usually we'll go to the folder where we have all the images. We click and click OK. So instead of that, here also we say that we want the variable with the name photo1. So when we do that, the image disappears and then we have this kind of indication here. We sit and do that for all the fields here. Our template will be ready. So I'll close this and I'll have something that is ready. I'll show you that. Yeah, so this is a file where everything is replaced by those variable names, which are column headers. And once we have this file ready, all we have to do is there is this scripter option. You select the script called generator and a new window will appear. So the first option is the name of the Scribus file, which is this file. And the second option is the master Excel sheet which we have made, which has information about all the common name, scientific name, file names for all the images, etc. An output directory where we want the output to be put, and you can either make multiple, say 200 PDF files, each with one page which has two species each, or you can merge all of that into a single PDF which has 200 pages. So it's better to merge into a single PDF. So we'll select this option and click OK. So it will take 2-3 minutes depending on how many species you have, size of your file, etc. So let's not wait for that. So what it makes, so at the end of that, after end of 1 or 2 minutes, it will make this for you. So it will pick up the corresponding common name, scientific name, corresponding images, and make plate after plate, and you will have your entire book like this. So once this is ready, all you need to do is a couple of pages of introduction that can also be made in Scribus itself, and you may need 2-3 pages of conclusion where we want maybe a group photo or a sponsor's photo, an index, 2-3 pages like that. and you just need to merge these or just stitch these 3 PDFs together, and you have your final PDF like this. So the video is intended only to give you an introduction of how it is done, an overview of the flow. There are good details in the document, please go through them, and if you have any doubts, please write to one of us. Our email addresses are also there in the document. So that's all I wanted to cover. Thanks a lot for your time.